Greetings, YouTube. It is with a heavy heart that I discuss this topic today. Utah has passed a law which bans gender-affirming healthcare for youths, people under the age of 18. Um, this is something that is going to be a game changer for trans people in Utah in a very negative way. It is going to cause suffering. It is going to cause oppression. And unfortunately, it is very likely to lead to death. This is going to put people in Utah who have no option of leaving Utah as their children, not being able to get the health care that they need, and that can push them over the edge, and we will lose them to suicide. I'm not speculating. We know this happens. We know that trans people have a very high rate of suicide attempts and suicide successes. Um, and of course, the conservatives, social conservatives, always use that as evidence of why it isn't good to be a trans person, while blithely ignoring the reason that they have such levels of depression and oppression and are so prone to falling into the horrors of suicide. It's because of social conservatives. If people weren't oppressing them, people weren't being prejudiced and discriminatory towards them, they wouldn't be pushed into depression. It isn't being trans that's the problem. It's being trans in a world that doesn't value trans lives. It's being trans in a world that thinks the only thing that's right and normal is to be cisgender. So it's not the fact that a person is transgender that's the issue. It's the fact that social conservatives keep pushing trans people to the edge and over it. And this kind of law that's just passed just passed in Utah is one of the things that is going to push people to that edge. And of course, the cold, hard truth is that that's exactly what social conservatives want. They don't want trans people to exist. They want them to disappear. They want to pretend they don't exist, even though trans people have existed for as long as people have existed. And they have been recognized in many cultures as being a legitimate members of society, but not in ours. Western society has thoroughly thrown trans people under the bus. Why? Because they're an incredibly small minority and they're really easy to target. And social conservatives need a target. To be socially conservative, you have to have a target to hate. You cannot be socially conservative and not have someone to vilify. Because if you are looking at the world through the eyes of equality, then you can't be a social conservative. So they have embraced bigotry and hatred, and they are aiming that at one of the most vulnerable groups in the entire world, trans people. The lawmakers in Utah are morally bankrupt. Absolutely. Anyone who voted for those people and to put them in power are morally bankrupt. If you support the GOP in any level, in anywhere in the United States of America, you have decided that you are an ally of white supremacy, which makes you morally bankrupt. And I have nothing but contempt for you. And anyone that suffers in Utah, I place that suffering at your feet. You have done this. You have done it willingly and intentionally. And that is an act of monstrous evil.